Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. A good topic for you today. Let's do it. What was your, oh, this person really is a psychopath moment when meeting someone? Please remember to like, share, comment, hype, listen and ask for shoutouts, and subscribe.
When I was a teenager, my mom signed me up for a horse camp. The first person I met that day was the daughter of the family running the camp. Throughout the entire day, I noticed her purposely inflicting pain on these horses and clearly getting enjoyment from it. The thing that stuck with me was how it wasn't in an obvious way, like hitting or kicking them. She would walk by one and pinch it, go to put a halter on, and sharply twist its ear, etc. She would laugh at their reaction, or if someone saw the reaction, start talking about what an awful horse it was. This was 10 plus years ago, and I still think about her from time to time. To this day, she's the only person I've ever met that I wholeheartedly believe she was a psychopath. I went to college with a guy that was called the Russian. His entire personality was wrapped up in being from Russia. He always talked about it, referenced it, etc. If you were out in public with him, he'd turn to you and go, "Did you see that guy?" Totally had Russian mob hand tattoos. It happened so much, we figured out that at least some of it has to be exaggerated or made up. Tons of little lies, like he's telling you he would give you $20 to drive him home, but asked to stop at Circle K first. Then he'd use the $20 to buy cigarettes and give you the change. One time, he asked me, "You have a car, right?" He knew I did. His plan was to rob his drug dealer. He said all I had to do was drive and stand there, looking menacing with a gun. I told him I'm not interested. I don't own a gun, and I don't know how to use one, so hard pass. I avoided talking to him after that. After college, a mutual friend and I were working together, and he came up to me and said, "Remember Alexei the Russian? Well, I met his mom." Turns out, not Alexei, it was Alexander. Turns out, not adopted from Russia at a young age, grew up in Scottsdale, Arizona. Absolutely nothing the guy had ever said was true. A few years later, I'm telling this story to a coworker, and the next day she comes in with a link to a news article and said, "Is this the guy?" It was. He had convinced the brother of the mutual friend I used to work with to go along with his rob my drug dealer plan. The brother got killed by the dealer, and the Russian is spending life in prison on the hook for it.
Okay, so I'm here early. Just want to give you guys fair warning. A few of these stories do involve animal cruelty, including the next one. That's why I'm here early. There's a few others sprinkled throughout, so if you hear a story starting and they're talking about animals, maybe just skip 10. Most of them are about humans, but there are a few. Just fair warning. I can't preface each one, but this is the first of about 3 or 4. So otherwise, hello everyone. So just for perspective, we're down in Fort Lauderdale for a couple days, and I'll be heading back to New York late tomorrow night. Anyway, hope all is well, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.
When I was younger, a new kid moved down the street from me. He was extremely violent to animals, wild and domestic. I hated him, but my parents made me hang out with him because his mom and my mom became friends. At first, it was small things. He was a Little League pitcher and very good. Well, he would chain up his dog and use it as target practice with rocks, jeez. Then he would let the dog go and the dog would try to bite you. He would throw rocks at birds on power lines with deadly accuracy. But these are the two most disturbing things. One day, I was walking through the woods to get home, and off in the distance, I see the kid, and he has a stick, and he just keeps smacking something on the ground with it. As I got closer, I could hear a wet thud and smack. As I got closer, I saw what he was smacking. Possum. It was dead, and white-gray fur was now all red. He must have been at it for a while, because around him were other sticks he used that broke and would just get a new one. I kept telling my parents that he was weird and I didn't like him. Plus, things started going missing. When he came over, my cat had kittens, and my parents decided to give one to the kid. It was only a few days later my parents told me what happened. He took the kitten and threw it against a brick wall until it died. Threw it so hard the cat's eyeballs popped out of its head. The kid's parents made him go to bury it in the woods. Eventually, the kid went back and dug the cat's grave. Me and my friend caught him numerous times just sitting on a log in the woods, just watching the different phases of decomposition of the kitten. After the kitten incident, my parents didn't force me to see him anymore. In case anyone is wondering, about 20 years later, I get a friend request on Facebook from him. I figured, come on man, we're adults now. He was a child, maybe just disturbed. I accepted his friend request, and about one day I receive a message from him. I open the message and it's just a bunch of different porn gifs, mainly of gaping buttholes. Ugh. He was blocked. I had a student once who from day one was paying really close attention to another student who was autistic. Like, he spent practically 2 days studying this kid. Actually, I thought maybe they were friendly, or he was just struggling to understand some of this kid's behaviors in an age-appropriate way. Oh no. What this child then started doing was deliberately sitting next to the autistic student, deliberately doing something that would provoke him, then dobbing the autistic student in for talking or kicking out or telling him to shut up. It was every time they came to sit on the floor. I eventually had to implement a seating plan for both tables and floor and communicate this all to the other teachers, because whenever I wasn't in the room, he'd go right back to the autistic child and start up again. There were other kids in the class who weren't very nice to this autistic child, but this kid is the only one I've ever taught who deliberately went out of his way to provoke meltdowns. When I questioned him about it, he said it's funny. His parents, with whom I spoke regularly, didn't care and kept blaming the school for letting those kinds of students in. It was the most exhausting year of my career, constantly keeping them separate and keeping an eye out to ensure the autistic student was not being bullied either in class or on the playground. At the same time, I'm dealing with the parents of the autistic student who refuse to believe that he is autistic. Therefore, he wasn't allocated funding and we couldn't get any support for him. Court case. Teenage boy murdered his mom, set the house on fire to cover his tracks, but also wrote a play about it before committing the crime. He didn't show a flicker of emotion throughout the trial until the prosecutor tripped him up in one of his lies. It was like a flip was switched, or a switch was flipped, and he started booting the dock and losing it when he realized his manipulation wasn't working. So over 20 years ago in my youth, I met this cool girl. I really can't even remember how or where. She was smart, beautiful, and funny, and I was a shy woman hidden in a corner. She dragged me out and took me on adventures. We had a blast, although the constant drama in her life made me tired sometimes. You know the type of person I mean. She had this on and off boyfriend. I never knew if they were on or off. One day he was the best thing ever and he was hanging with us. The next day she hated him. Then he got a new girlfriend during one of their breaks. She was furious. It should be noted she wasn't a nun when they weren't together, so she's ranting and shouting, and I'm being a good friend, agreeing that yes, men do indeed suck. Then she says she's going to cut his brake lines. Oh, and his mother's too. His mother was not her biggest fan, so I'm thinking she's just letting off steam and venting and would never in a million years do this. She was a very kind, sweet, generous, and loving person to everyone around her, whenever I was around, and to me. So anyway, she was in fact not kidding. She drove to his mother's house, where he also lived in the dead of night, and did exactly what she said she would do. Luckily, by some miracle, one of them realized something was wrong before they even left the driveway. and the other figured it out a short while later while not driving very fast. So I'm in shock. She actually did it. No, you didn't. Yes, I fucking did. Then she gets angry and starts shouting and venting because it didn't work. And they're both fine. Yeah, that was the last time I ever hung out with her. I think her mother might have also been a bit crazy. At one of her birthday toasts to her daughter included how proud she was that she made it through high school without getting pregnant. What? When I was like 12, my parents visited friends of theirs who lived in a little suburb here in Belgium, who had a kid who was my age and I had already met once before. He had massive neighbor's kid energy. He had a collection of knives in his room, as well as airsoft guns and a bow. Anyway, while parents were chatting, he took the bow and showed me the back of the house where there was a chicken enclosure his family owned. He then started shooting arrows into it, actual pointy metal tipped ones, but trying to not shoot the chickens themselves to try and impress me or something. A little while later, he was showing me a knife and suddenly made a motion to pretend to stab me with it, like a made you flinch, haha type bad joke. I flinched, my hands up, and my left hand caught on the blade and got opened a bit between my index and middle finger. Not a huge wound, but I was still bleeding a bunch and crying even more. Run up to my parents, then they take me to the hospital, and to this day, I still have the little scar on my hand, and my parents never talked to those friends of theirs again. Years ago, I interviewed to work in an organization for troubled kids. The final step in the process was something called a shadow week, where I would work a regular schedule for a week, be paid for it, and at the end I would have the final opportunity to either take or turn down the job. First day I'm just sort of hanging back and watching everything. The group of kids I was with ran the spectrum of issues, but nothing that made me feel unsafe to be around. Then this kid walks up and introduces himself. He was about 14 years old. Came across as very nice and asked me some questions. His entire demeanor came off as if he was the de facto leader of the group. Kids tend to naturally fall into this kind of social hierarchy, so I didn't think much of it. After talking to him for a few minutes, he walks away, and immediately afterwards, one of the workers comes up and asked me what he was asking me and what I had told him. It was all very surface level stuff, but what the worker told me next shook me. Worker: don't ever talk to X one-on-one or tell him anything about yourself. Me: why? Worker: he will get in your head and find ways to use it against you. The worker then proceeded to tell me some of the reasons this kid was in the program, and it made my skin crawl. S molesting siblings, physical and S violence against girls and boys, manipulating kids into doing similar acts to other kids, and other things I won't mention. He warned me that he would 100% try to cozy up to me and talk to me, and that when he did, I was to tell him that I wasn't allowed to talk to him outside of any scheduled therapy sessions or other official activities one-on-one, and that he knows the deal. Sure enough, next day during lunch, he comes over to where I'm sitting and starts to talk to me, and I gave him the rehearsed response. I do not exaggerate when I say this. It's like he literally became a different person after I said that. You know how in Jaws, when Quint talks about the lifeless black eyes of a shark? That's exactly what I saw in this kid. It was like a switch turned off, utterly cold and lifeless. His posture changed. His obviously practiced smile and way of speaking changed. The mask genuinely came off. He cocked his head slightly and looked at me, and I had two thoughts run through my head. One, if this kid ever got me alone, I had no doubt in my mind that he would try everything he could to kill me. And two, this kid will 100% end up in prison for either R, murder, or both. Ah, I see, he said. His voice and tone were even different from what I had experienced the day before. Don't want me to know too much, right? Before I could say anything, he stood up. Good luck with the rest of the week. It's hard to describe, but everything about what he said felt like a threat. From that point on, for the rest of the week, the kid didn't say a word to me, but every time I looked up, I could see him staring at me and sizing me up. It was deeply unsettling. I ended up not taking the job. Now I work as a high school teacher. Been doing it for 10 years, and I have had kids with all kinds of issues, but that kid is the only one I would ever call a genuine psychopath. A part of me wonders if he was possessed by a demon, because what I saw after he realized there was no point in keeping up the facade felt inhuman. That's the only way I could ever describe it. Maybe not a psychopath by hand definition, but definitely a sociopath. I had an office job in Amsterdam, NL. One day, this new guy from the US was hired in to work in my team, software dev. Late 30s, kinda shy, but admittedly smart and good with Java. Long story short, this dude was the most insidious man-child I've ever met, doing all kinds of devious things that would always create conflict with me, only to always make me look like I was the crazy one in front of my coworkers. To the extent that, after 2 years, I had a mental breakdown in the middle of a company meeting because of shit that he was doing and how helpless I was feeling, messing with my reputation just because. I had to keep a folder in my computer with all kinds of evidence providing how much of a compulsive liar he was, and how he was deliberately targeting me to just make my life miserable. Eventually, I got sick leave, and I made my case to HR, proving all the crap he was doing, and how good he was at it, to disturb me and make me look like I was the insane one. He eventually got fired, mainly because of all of this, but also because after a while, he started having trouble to keep up with all the lies he would tell before everyone else, so people started catching up to him. I worked as a vet tech for around 5 years, and this one particular guy just outright told me about how he'd catch all the cats that wandered onto their property and bury them in their yard with just their heads sticking out of the dirt. Dude said he'd get on his riding lawnmower and just drive down the line of heads poking out of the ground. I was horrified, pissed, and bewildered that this information just spilled out of him without even the slightest hint of guilt, but more so like he was so proud of it. His wife was bringing in their pet cat that day too, so who knows whatever happened to that poor thing. When I met my wife's aunt, this woman looked me dead in the eye and said ICE agents should be positioned on rooftops with sniper rifles, taking out every Mexican they spot. Wow. I'm Native American, and I wonder if she mistook me for Mexican, because why would she say that to me completely unprompted? That's probably the most unsafe I've ever felt around another person. I told my wife that her aunt isn't welcome at our house anymore. Absolute psychopath. I've only had this happen once, but I immediately picked up on the psychopath vibes. I overheard him telling a woman he'd killed her husband to be with her. He's with her now, though to my knowledge, it was just a divorce that happened. I've seen her husband around. What solidified it, because the whole "I'd kill for you" thing could have been a misguided romantic gesture, was when he started picking on another person, calling her slurs over and over again to rile her up so she'd attack him while she was drunk. I had to get between them. The psycho's attracted to me, and I've since learned this woman has a crush on me, so she wouldn't try and kill him. He then spent the rest of the night trying to rile everybody else up under the Uber driver who stops in the bar regularly offered to drive him and his friend home. He wasn't just being rowdy either. There was a genuine sense that he would have killed somebody if he was taken out of his good mood. He recently started a fight, and there's a zero tolerance policy at this bar for actual fights, so he's banned now. He's threatened the owner, so we call the cops as soon as he shows up, if he tries to enter. I have a female regular at my bar who kindly refers to as a S-bully. She weaponizes her sexuality to make some uncomfortable, others intrigued, others in love. She's an attractive lady, late 40s. It's always been fun and flirty, until she reveals to me that she's been caught in this guy by his wife. She's been stalking him for 5 years now. That sucks. It just happened and the wife is on her way to the bar to talk to her about it. At first, I'm intrigued. After watching the way she handled it, I knew she was a psychopath. She had no empathy, let alone sympathy. She just sat there proud of herself for destroying this woman's life. The wife, crying her eyes out at the prominent seat at the bar, is losing her mind. The regulars just going through the motions like she could care less. She even told her details about putting him in the bed in her home and how she avoided detection for so long, all with a smile on her face. When I heard her tell the wife that he had a beautiful dick, and the wife started sobbing uncontrollably, I had to find a place to hide. Beware of the wicked. They are among us. Had a very good friend. Everything went pretty smoothly from the get-go. We knew everything about each other's lives until he drank. He slapped me because someone said he couldn't go to the toilet because I was in there, and he wanted to see my genitals. Worst part about this, he was shit-faced and lived very far away, so I had to take him to my apartment for the night. Worst night of my life. Was stuck in this relationship for months on end because of emotional blackmail. Now I'm pretty happy I have him cut out from my life. Shows up for a job interview online in her pajamas and immediately starts eating a sandwich. Asks me what is the reason for the meeting since she forgot. Spends 1 minute vaguely talking about the job, then says people working with her usually hang out at her house, and proceeds to give me a house tour. After finishing the sandwich, licks her fingers one by one in front of the camera, then goes off on a tangent about AI taking over the world. I was already struggling to keep a straight face, but when she called her husband with a whistle and he actually showed up like a trained dolphin, I almost lost it. Needless to say, I did not accept the job. I had a friend who told jokingly how she and her sister killed their cat when they were children. They had played a game where they tied a rope around the cat's neck and flung it around. She told they didn't realize it would hurt the cat. BS. They weren't so young that they wouldn't have been aware that if you literally strangle a living being, it will die. I was disturbed and asked if the cat tried to get out. Her answer, well, yeah, but we just thought it was funny when it jumped and tried to struggle out of it. I was so shocked. The same friend cut her other cat's fur when she was 13 again for fun, leaving it full of bald spots. The cat was an outdoor cat. In addition, her father had a dog that he kept in a short rope tied into a doghouse, no matter the time of year or weather. The dog understandably had aggression problems, and in the end, the dad had to shoot it. She also has never had any kind of empathy and is very, very manipulative person. She's always the victim and everyone else is the bad guy. I cut ties with her, and life has been so much more peaceful. She would always purposely get herself into situations where it would look like she was the lady in distress, but later just laugh about how it was fun. I was like a mother, trying to keep her from going along with guys she had just met, etc. I cannot understand how anyone can hurt an animal. My heart breaks for all the animals she and her family has owned. Her whole family is just very, very problematic, and I think it has contributed to her personality. Sorry if there were any weird sentences. English is not my first language. Online dating. Met this girl that was 19. Really cute, emo chick. We FaceTimed, and what ensued was the wildest shit I've ever heard from a girl. We both had BPD in common and talked about that before she revealed she had schizophrenia. I was like, oh, this is wild, but wanted to learn more, so I asked. She talked about how she regularly sees things that she doesn't know if it's real or in her head. She talked about the figure that lives in her closet. She named him, talks to him on the regular, etc. That's not even the wild part. As the night continues, she starts sending me pictures, just random ones of her because I had commented on how beautiful I thought she was, so she began sending selfies she had taken prior. Then, she sends me one with an AR in her mouth. Oh wow, wild. Then she starts breathing irregularly and begins to get more manic, I guess. She started talking about Germany and World War II and was heavy on Germany. I'm mixed race with everything, but why? Basically, so I was like, okay, let's see how crazy she is. I get her to admit she likes the Nazis and thought they were cool. H was interesting and hot, ugh. But yet she had no problems with me being colored. She then starts getting excited and says, do you like gore? With a really excited face. That's the one that stopped me in my tracks. Like, beheadings and stuff? I mean, I saw one when I was like 13, but it was too much and I never looked at that stuff again. Movies are cool though. She says, can I send you a picture? It's this guy that blew himself up. It's really cool. At this point, I don't know why I didn't hang up. I think I just wanted to see how crazy she was. She sends me a pic of the guy, and it was gross, but nothing I couldn't handle. I was more so just like, what the is this girl's problem? She then starts talking about these gore videos she watches. Some of the mass shootings she thought were really cool. I finally had to change the subject and was talking about anything else. I started talking about myself and things in my room. That's when I noticed her roll her eyes, LMAO. Then about 3 minutes later, the call ends. I message her and I'm blocked on both sides. I had her profile on LMFAO. What a night. What a human being that was. I noticed something was off when I banged my head really hard in a swimming pool and he didn't flinch, look up, or ask if I was alright. I didn't know what a psychopath was. Years later, I had been asking him to make a doctor's appointment to address his sleep disorder. All kinds of excuses came up. Then, one morning, he woke up with a huge spot in a very obvious part on his nose, and he booked an urgent appointment with the doctor for the pimple. Didn't find R-ing his wife while he was asleep on a nearly nightly basis was not grounds for medical help, but something affecting his appearance was. An argument ensued, and he said, you know you like it really. Yeah, psychopath. There was so much stuff that should have alerted me, and other moments when it hit me again. He had been controlling my food and discouraging me from eating more when I was weighing less than 80 pounds. Due to anorexia, I thought that was the only one telling me the truth. I was skinny fat and needed to avoid carbs and sugar. Luckily, eating disorder doctors noticed and raised appropriate safeguarding, got him to move out, and admitted me to the hospital. After a few weeks in hospital, I was really worried about a fellow patient and just had this desperation for her to eat her meals and get stronger. It was then I realized how psychopathic it was for him to sit and watch his emaciated wife not eat with no natural urge to get me to eat.